The cemetery was always my favorite part of the city. It was quiet. The Civil Legion rarely went inside, and it was peaceful. There was always people in the cemetery. Most people couldn't see them, but Mother could, and she always had me play with the children while she spoke with the adults who stayed in the cemetery. It was always fun to play with the children, but Mother always gave me rules to follow. Don't fall into the open graves. Only play with children who ask to be played with. Stay away from the graves that were hot. Do not disturb the women who worked in the mausoleums. And of course, don't bother the people who were crying. The cemetery was a favorite place to visit. It was the only place in the city where I could find people that were happy. The only place that felt peaceful. The Crooked Cemetery was nothing like that, especially when I was buried alive alongside Nadya. The soil settled over us both. I could feel Nadya's hand in my own hand. The air was getting thin and full of dirt. I could feel the troubled steps of the nurses, no longer the steady rhythm that they had for us when they carried us out. It was quick and urgent, like they were running from something. That was heaven compared to what was in the soil beneath us. I could feel them crawling, squirming, enduring, and moving. Something that was still for a very long time, that was now beginning to warm and remember that it could move. All I could do was hope that staying still would keep it from waking up. But even with the weight of the earth weighing me down like a blanket, and with the drugs in my system, my heart still beat, my lungs still breathed with difficulty, my fingers moved a little. It disturbed what was beneath us as they began to stir, their voices echoing through my head and through the dirt. Something new has joined us in the graveyard, the voice hissed. Then it spoke again from somewhere else. Something with lungs that breathes, the voice behind my ear said. Something with a heart that beats, the voice said beneath my feet. Something with a mouth that eats, the voice beneath my chest rumbled, causing the bones in my chest to vibrate as I gripped my sister's hand tighter, the only way I could move. Oh, it isn't just one, it's two, the voice near my ear whispered. Two? It's so rare to find one true heart in my realm. Two is unheard of, the voice beneath my feet said with excitement. Two true hearts. It would be cruel for us to keep them apart, the voice beneath my chest rumbled. I could feel it moving towards Nadya, but I couldn't let them reach her. Stop, I said with all the strength I could muster. It came out as a weak whisper that filled my mouth with mud and stole more of my breath away. But the slithering voices stopped moving towards Nadya, and instead started moving towards me again. I could hear the bodies that the voices came from slithering around me, like three snakes connected as it wrapped around my body. Only a thin layer of dirt separated the beasts of the Crooked Cemetery from my skin. No, not beast, beast. A beast with multiple heads, multiple voices, multiple maws, multiple minds. But as they focused on me, I could hear something above us on the surface of the grave, moving on our shallow graves. Something that the beast didn't notice. A lot of little feet, a lot of little claws, little sparks above us through the darkness. Little feet that drowned out the beeping that I could hear reverberating through the soil. Stop. The little thing thinks it can tell us to stop. What power does this child have over us? None. No power. We could do nothing, and we could leave you, and you will still die. Die, die, die. You would be slowly suffocated and crushed, your metabolism slowed by the crushing cold. We can let you wait. The worms will crawl in before you die. Little heart, who are you to protect another little heart? I realized then the voices had no idea who Nadya and I were. They still didn't realize what was above us. As they got closer, I could see more of the sparks. Hope, rebirth, warmth. The candlelight next to your bed while you were waking from a nightmare. But I was still in the grips of the nightmare, and I would have to face the nightmare. I struggled to lift my left hand to cover my mouth as I spoke. A little bit of air, but protection for my mouth so I could speak. Who am I? I am Valeska Aaron, twin brother of Nadya Aaron, son of Bronwyn Aaron and Morana Aaron. You will stop trying to scare us. You will let us go. You will be a good host. You will not transgress, because they are coming, I told the beast. My voice echoed with more strength through the dirt, and judging by the squeeze I could feel from Nadia's hand, she could hear, or at least feel, my words. The voices squirmed as they dug away from my body, and for the first time I could hear dread in the creature's voice. I knew deep in my heart, from the same place, that told me that hope was above us in the soil. A son and daughter of Morana? What are they doing in my domain? Do we dare anger a goddess of rebirth and death? The first voice mused. Hell and hope, hope and hell, hell and hope, hope and hell. The second voice repeated again and again, even as the other voices spoke. The boy's a liar. He has to be a liar. No one like him would ever fall beneath the dirt. And even if they did, Morana's laws are clear. They are ours. Neither Bronwyn nor Morana would intervene, not even for their own children, the final voice said, which quieted the other voices for a moment. I spoke again. I am not lying, but you misunderstood what I said. I didn't say Morana and Bronwyn were coming. I said that they were coming, I said, squeezing Nadia's hand. By now I could hear them above me with my ears, and not through the esoteric senses. The sound of claws hitting stone, the sound of scratching through soil, the sound of intent above both Nadya and myself. Who is coming? All are welcome to my domain. More true hearts to feed my never-ending hunger. The small ones are coming. The forgotten ones are coming. The singers in the silence are coming, I said as the beast recoiled. Her? Why is she here? It isn't fair. We cannot transgress if there's no harbinger. It is her rule. He is lying. He is lying. Their hearts belong to us, the voices said, doubting every single word they said. A harbinger? You mean like the twin children of Bronwyn and Morana telling you that you will stop? I said as their dread and doubt became horror, and the beast stopped moving. Now hidden in the soil, the beast was the one who lived beneath the grave, as Nadya and I focused on what was digging into the grave from above. The scent changed. It was no longer ether, rot, mud, and ash. It now smelled of fur, rain, and evening air. Slivers of light came in above us as whatever scared away the beast beneath us finally made its way to us. The dirt moved enough that I could finally see what fearsome creatures freed us from being buried alive. The soil free from my eyes, I could see the eyes of my savior, and I could see mostly black eyes shining in the dark. It was less than half a meter long. It had 4 legs covered in fur, with the only visible pink skin inside of its ears. Little horns on a little head with long ears, Fur covered the body as the little feet with little claws dug into the soil. The furry face reached out to me as the nose touched my nose, like the horned rabbit was telling me to breathe. I took a deep breath after the rabbit's nose touched my own, and with the deep breath, the beeping faded away again. The last of the paralysis faded from me as I pulled myself up out of the dirt, and Nadya followed suit. The soil on top of our bodies wasn't as deep as I thought it was, but we were still dumped into a pit that was at least 2 meters deep. We could see the roots of the ground reach deep, but not deep enough for us to pull ourselves out. On the edge of the grave above, I could see a girl shrouded in darkness. I could see the red and yellow of her dress, the bells and ribbons of her hat, as she reached both arms into the pit, reaching down for us to grab her hand.
"Take my hand. I can only reach down for you when you reach up for me,"
she said in a tone that sounds almost like she was singing a song behind her words. We reached out to her hand. Somehow her hand was within easy reach, but when we looked at her, her arms weren't extra long. She wasn't bigger than a normal girl, but somehow her hands were right where we could grab. A contradiction, but I couldn't see through, nor could I understand. Not in an exoteric nor esoteric way. "Divinity," I whispered to Nadya, who nodded in agreement, and we both grabbed the girl's hands as she pulled us out of the pit onto the grass next to the grave. While we caught our breaths next to the girl, she wiped off the dirt onto her apron. After she wiped her hand on the apron, she placed a hand on her hips, looking down at us like an older sister. The way she smiled at us felt familiar. Something from my oldest memory, a memory so old that I was told it was a dream. Baba Yaga and Mom told us both that the memory wasn't a memory, that it was a dream, that it had to be a dream. I remember playing with an older sister who always watched us when we were alone, a warmth guiding us away from the Civil Legion, a tap on the shoulder showing us what it was we were looking for, a kind thought on the worst days, a voice to read us a story when the sirens screamed outside, a hand pulling down the book from the high shelf, a memory that we were told was a dream, and for a long time I believed it, until I saw her again.
"Breathe. Breathe until you remember you're alive,"
she murmured, and we inhaled deeply. Air burned every part of my chest, but it was ours, free of soil, free of pain, free of the grave. We were alive. The jackalopes ran around her, their feet and scratching on the dirt and stone, a soothing lullaby to the beast that hid beneath the cemetery, placing it back into a deep sleep. The lullaby brought the memory of her name back. "Adansi, you're the ruler of the pumpkin house?" I asked her, and she turned to face me. She moved strangely. I was used to seeing strange things that no one else could see. The pain that places could feel, the colors of people's voices, the taste of their emotions. The quiet man. But Adansi was like none of them. The way she moved wasn't like an object in motion. It was like clay being reshaped to make her appear like she is moving, while in reality she is simply changing shape, shaped by her own invisible hands.
"You were buried too soon. It's a shame. People are usually dying to get to their graves." "But do not fear, little brother and little sister. The soil hasn't forgotten you yet."
Her words didn't sound special to my ears, but every fiber of my heart and soul shivered at her words like she was a thunderstorm. The horned rabbits around us paused in their service for a moment and bowed their heads. And in that moment, I didn't see jackalopes nor horned rabbits. I saw children. I saw lost children who never made their way home. I saw children who never had a home to lose. I saw children who had to grow up too quickly. I saw children who never had a chance to grow up. All where the rabbits were just a moment ago, before they became rabbits again, hopping into the darkness of the gravestones, disappearing from view. "What are you?" Nadya asked Adansi, who tilted her head like the question was strange.
Your sister, your friend, your hero, your madness, your obstacle, your harbinger.
She reached out her hand and lifted my face up to see her face. I could see that her eyes could see a lot too. Far more than I could ever hope to see. And she wasn't afraid of what she was seeing. She saw beauty in all of it, not danger.
Little brother, if you want to see more, and you want more to see, you need to find beauty in the frightful. And you need to find the fright in the beautiful.
She said as she turned to Nadya.
Little sister, the world is far more than you know. There's colors that you've never seen. There's songs you've never heard. There's scents you've never smelled. There's food you've never tasted. There's bunnies you've never pet. And you never will if you always avoid the road less traveled.
Adansi said as she turned to the distance. In the distance we could hear the ringing of bells. Bells that chimed for us and for so many others. Above us the sky was violet with no stars, only the clouds above drifting down like ash and obscuring the distance in the cemetery. Something changed behind Adansi's eyes. No longer the compassionate eyes of a rabbit, replaced instead with the mad eyes of a March hare.
The house is not done with you yet. Try not to wake the many-headed hydra that rests beneath the graves. Follow the roots where the soil rings true. Be cautious how you travel. The ground is thin here. As thin as the line between life and death.
She sighed as she looked out over the crooked cemetery, looking forlorn, before she focused on us again. Her tears falling down to the ground, creating puddles around her feet that reflected the sky above. Puddles far larger than the tears that were falling.
I will leave clues for you to find. Clues that cannot be hidden nor altered by others. That doesn't mean that it will be easy to understand, nor does it mean that others won't place false clues to mislead you. Reach the skeleton, and you may leave the crooked cemetery to reach the farthest grounds of the pumpkin house to help me,
she said with a smile. Her tears now shed, I could see sparks behind her eyes again. No, not sparks. Lightning. Help you? Help you with what? Nadya asked, her voice hesitant. What could a being as powerful as the Marquess of Madness possibly need from human beings like us? I could see her asking in her eyes. It was strange because the answer was obvious to me, without Adansi ever needing to say a single word. Adansi cast her eyes to Nadya as she took off her hat, and she brushed it off like she was trying to figure out how to answer Nadia's question. It was a question she never expected to be asked. But here it was, and now Adansi was finding her patience to answer Nadia's question. But she took a deep inhale, and she placed a hand on both of our shoulders. A hand that was neither warm nor cold, but it held the memory of both. If my hands could hold a spark, then her fingertips held stars. How many dying hands did she hold on the deathbed? How many exhausted hands did she hold during labor? How many newborns' hands did she hold? How many hands was she the first to hold? How many hands was she the last to hold? In that moment, with her hand on my shoulder, if you told me all of them, I would have believed you.
Why, I need your help in setting up the party! You silly goat! Are you feeling quite bad today?
Adansi said, and in an instant she was gone. No movement, no step, no wind. Just absence. And the memory of a hand on my shoulder. A memory of a dream. And with her gone, now it no longer felt like she was real, but also like she was the only real thing in our life. Nadya swayed next to me, shaking her head as she spoke. Adansi saved us? She asked incredulously as I shook my head. She wasn't saving us. She was planting us somewhere else. We have to save ourselves, I said as I could feel the movement beneath the soil again, like the worms were moving beneath us, squirming, wiggling, and searching. We have to move, Nadya said as she grabbed my hand, and we stepped away from the grave that we were pulled out of. Our bodies clean, but I could still feel the blood, dirt, and ether on my skin. The memory of the touch that didn't shake nearly as easily as the actual dirt. Around the cemetery, we could see crooked lines of gravestones, crooked paths of stone, and even footpaths through the cemetery. The fog in the distance made it impossible to know which way, if any, lead to the exit. Dad always said that the cemetery was leading on the outside heading in, but now we are heading from the inside out, so we should try away from the path that brought us here, Nadya suggested, pointing at the muddy trail that went right into the fog and along the smooth paved stones. Yeah, that's a good idea, but that just tells us one possible wrong way. But I also don't have anything better, so I shrugged as I pointed down one of the trails that seemed to be leading away from both the pit and the muddy trail that brought us here. Nadya and I walked down the trail, careful to step on the stones, hoping to not wake whatever was beneath the dirt. Every time we stepped on the dirt, we could feel it move beneath us. It was deep beneath our feet, but it didn't feel deep enough. Then we paused at one of the crossroads. I could hear the distant ringing of a bell. We should head towards the bell, I told Nadya while she shook her head. We shouldn't head towards the bell. The noise will only wake the Hydra up more. Let's head anywhere else but there. We need to walk down the path that rings true. It may wake what lies beneath the dirt, but that doesn't make it the wrong path. Just because it's the path that doesn't wake up the monster, doesn't mean that it's the right path. Hell, even if we walk away from the right path, the monster may wake anyway, and we might wind up farther from the way out in exchange for nothing. I told her as she shook her head and looked at the path farther away from the bell. That doesn't make sense. That isn't how the world works. That isn't how our world works. That's never been how the world works, she said, turning back to the trail that led away from the bell as she pointed at the trail. See, more people have been down this way. This is the correct way, she said as she turned down the path. Remember what Adansi said, I said as she paused and she turned to me, tears in her eyes. I realized that she was terrified, more scared of this place than she was of the hospital, more scared of the paths and the bell than she was of the hospital and the nurses, and more scared of Adansi than what wore our dad's skin. She just said that to scare us. It doesn't mean anything. She just said it to scare us, Nadya said as I hugged her. A rare act, since I didn't normally hug people. Nadya, this place isn't like Markomania. Hell, it isn't like Earth. If someone says something scary, it's meant to be examined and listened to. Warnings are plentiful here, and they are clear to those who listen. It isn't clear to those who decide to ignore it. Just because it's scary doesn't mean it shouldn't be understood. I told her, and she looked down the path I suggested, and she nodded as I began to lead us toward the bell. We passed by many strange gravestones that had strange things written on them. Sometimes it was something funny, or at least something in the spirit of Samhain. Here lies Christopher. I told you it was serious. Either the wallpaper goes, or I do. Here lies wallpaper. Here lies Karen, died at 103. Only the good die young. Here lies stupid, right next to a grave with an arrow pointing at it that said, I'm with stupid. They were funny, a little scary, but funny. And then there was the graves that were clearly made to scare us, clearly made to distract us. Graves with our parents' names on it, graves with our names on it, and even graves with terms like honor, pride, hope, love, and humanity on it. These were easy for me to ignore, but Nadya kept looking at them, pausing for a moment, almost stepping off the path to look closer at those gravestones, not seeing that there was only fog in front of the gravestones. Only fog and an empty grave with something hungry on the bottom. Nadya, try to focus on the stones that make you smile. The sad ones are trying to trick you to get closer to them, I reminded her, as she glanced at a stone with her name on it. But what if the graves are real? She asked, fear tinging her voice. They only become real if you let yourself fall into them. As long as you keep going, they aren't real. Giving up makes them real, I told her, while the hydra grumbled beneath our feet, the heads still hiding beneath every headstone. In the distance, I could see the gate, a bell next to it, with a skeletal man next to it. We could see the way out, but also the stone path ended, at least 20 meters away from safety. We would have to walk across the grass that I could see was roiling and boiling with the heads of the hydra, mere centimeters beneath the soil. Any idea on how we can get past it? Nadya asked, while I glanced at the last 2 gravestones. I looked them over, and when I saw them, my heart ran cold as Nadya looked at them too, confused about why I was scared. The gravestone on the left said, Here lies Eurydice, died on her wedding day, too busy running to see the snake in the grass. The symbol carved in the stone made me think clearly, Hydra. I glanced over at the other stone. Here lies Orpheus, never should have turned back. The symbol beneath, a glass of wine. I turned to the grass again, as I thought about what I knew of the myth. Nadya, I will have to walk first across the grass. You will have to follow. Don't touch me. I can't look back at you. But it is very important that you keep following me. It is important that you only speak when we reach the skeletal docent, I told her as I thought back to the old song that my father taught us both. One of the only songs I knew in Dad's language. A song that the voices referenced in the grave. What is happening, Valeska? She asked as I could hear the distant cries of something behind us. Something that sounded hungry. Something angry. Something mad. What is that, Valeska? She asked, and I could hear the panic as I spoke up again. Nadya, I don't have time to explain. If I explained it, then we won't make it. It is very important that I head first. Don't run, don't get ahead of me, and don't stay still. I need you to trust me. This is from both Dad and Mom's old stories. I need you to trust me, I said as I took a deep breath. I took the first step off the path and onto the grass, and I began to sing. Don't ever laugh as a hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet, from your head down to your feet. They put you in a big black box and cover you up with dirt and rocks, and all goes well for about a week, and then your coffin begins to leak, and the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose, they eat the jelly between your toes. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls in your stomach and out your eyes. Your stomach turns a slimy green, and pus comes out like whipping cream. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you eat when you're dead. And the worms crawl out, and the worms crawl in. The worms that crawl in are lean and thin. The ones that crawl out are fat and stout. Your eyes fall in, and your hair falls out. Your brain comes tumbling down your snout, and the worms crawl in, and the worms crawl out. They crawl all over your dirty snout. Your chest caves in, and your eyes pop out, and your brain turns to sauerkraut. They invite their friends, and their friends too. They all come down to chew on you, and this is what it is to die. I hope you had a nice goodbye. Did you ever think, as a hearse goes by, that you may be the next to die? And your eyes fall out, and your teeth decay, and that is the end of a perfect day. Every line was a step forward. Every line the Hydra stilled, like it was listening to me sing. I couldn't look behind me. I couldn't stop singing. I could only trust that Nadya was behind me. I had to remind myself to never look behind myself. Now in that moment, I could feel Orpheus's pain. I couldn't hear her. I couldn't feel her. I could only look forward and trust that she was there. And even with the Hydra settling beneath my feet, it wasn't completely still. It moved like the worms in the song. It squirmed, it dug, and it wiggled. And I knew that if it truly wanted to eat me, that it could. All I had was a feeling and what I knew of the past. Step by step, line by line, I could see the skeletal docent facing me. He could see me. He could see Nadya, if she was following. She has to be following. I know she is scared, but she isn't so scared that she would stay still. It isn't her nature. I could hear the screams getting closer. I wanted to run. I want to hurry. I want to skip a line to get closer, but I stay strong. I know what happens to those that transgress, but I cannot. As scary as it is to walk along the right path, in the right way, it is more dangerous to try to run. The Hydra beneath my feet, and the mad ones chasing us down the trail. She isn't behind you, you know, a voice whispers from beneath my feet. She stayed behind, another voice whispered behind me. She doesn't trust you, the final voice said ahead of me. I almost stutter in my song, but I keep singing. When I reach the end, I sing it again. I cannot trust the Hydra. It has no reason to be honest with me, and it has every reason to make me look or make Nadya run, or to make me stop singing. Just turn around. Yes, turn around. Orpheus was a hero, a demigod, the greatest of his kind. No one would blame you for making his choice. The voices whispered, but I kept walking towards the docent. The grass settled, but the voices still had something to say. The mad ones are close, mere meters behind. They already got her. They'll get you too. I sang and I stepped. I kept looking forward, my hand out to the docent, who also reached their hand out to me. Why would you ever trust someone like her? She's never going to understand you. She's never going to try to understand you. So why do you try to understand her? You know she doesn't trust you. She could never trust someone like you. The Hydra kept speaking as I stepped onto the same stone as the docent, looking out into the iron bars. With my step on the concrete, my first instinct was to stop singing, to turn around and embrace Nadya, especially when the voices stopped. But I knew that would be a mistake as well. Just because I was safe did not mean that Nadya was safe. She would still be traveling on the grass, and if I stopped singing, the Hydra could easily swallow her. So I kept the path safe as I kept singing. Even when I heard her voice tell me it was safe, I kept singing. Even when I could feel a presence next to me, I kept singing. Only when I felt her familiar hand in my own did I stop and face the docent. Still scared to look at my sister, fearing it might be a trick. "Welcome, guests, to the Phantom Fairgrounds," the skeleton said, producing an old iron key and opening the gate. The gate creaked open, and I could see the tents being set up for the fair. Before I stepped through, the skeleton offered the key to us. "You see, twin children of war, I cannot leave my post, but the key to this gate needs to be kept in the Phantom Fairgrounds, so guests can open the gate to the Crooked Cemetery. Can I trust you both to bring the key to Lycon?" the skeleton asked as I took the key, and only when I stepped across the threshold into the Phantom Fairgrounds did I turn around to see what was behind me. On the grass, I could see Nadya still there, her eyes crazed, full of fear, anger, and hunger. So far from the gate, it looked like she didn't follow me at all through the grass. Then the fog parted, and I could see that there wasn't just one Nadya. There were dozens of her, all of them with eyes just as crazed as the first Nadya, attached to the ground by long, thin cables that looked like snakes. Snakes that pulled all of the Nadyas into the ground, leaving me alone with the true Nadya in the Phantom Fairground. At least, I hope it was the true Nadya.